of CI welcome you all to this solemn occasion of Foundation Day. Most of us present here have walked through the corridors of this glorious institution, and in each one of our lives, this institution has made a mark. This day gives us a reason to get together, to relive our memories, and create some new ones. But none of us had ever thought the way we are meeting today. We are not gathered in the auditorium or the quadrangle. Still, we are together and bonded in our hearts and spirits. So, in this unprecedented time when the normal is being redefined, I welcome you all on this virtual platform to the celebration of Foundation Day. Now, I would like to invite our Dean and Head, Professor Shobha Sinha, for the annual report. Ma'am, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Mahima. Mahima has worked very hard in organizing it and had sleepless nights as a consequence. But we are here, Mahima, and ready. I'd like to welcome all of you who have chosen to be with us this day for this Foundation Day celebration. The university had this year discouraged us from having any kind of celebration, and Foundation Day was listed over there. But we decided that we'll definitely have this celebration to mark the kind of feeling, institutional solidarity that we have this day. I'd like to welcome our retired faculty and faculty who have were with us and then joined other places, our former faculties, colleagues from CIE and from our affiliated institutions, colleges, beloved students who have had it extra difficult time this year, but they are the spirited ones, and our non-teaching staff. Um, this is the first time that we are doing an online Foundation Day, so it is a kind of a historical occasion. And whenever somebody does something for the first time, it is a cause to feel some pride, unless some first times we'd much rather avoid. But certainly when we do something, initiate some new kind of effort. So it will be good to feel pride about it, but I sincerely hope that this is not only the first time, but the only time that we do our Foundation Day celebration online. To use the parlance of the university administration, I would say that let this be an one-time measure, and after that we never get to do this. We meet actually, as Mahima said, in our own auditorium and celebrate the event. Um, this, when we think of 2020, it has been a very amazing year for the entire world, and of course, CIE is not untouched by it. Um, this the impact of COVID, which was felt by all of us from March onwards when we had an emergency meeting. Prior to that, we were hearing about COVID, but it seemed very far away. But after, in March, during spring break, we had an emergency meeting in the university, and it was decided that the students cannot come back to the university right now. It won't be safe. And the students who were in hostel were advised to leave and go home. After that, at that time, we thought it was 2 weeks and a month, but so far the students have not been allowed to return. So that was the first thing that happened. We were told to hastily organize a coronavirus committee. And at that time, we thought that the coronavirus committee would be doing things like buying sanitizers and things like that, which had just started to enter our vocabulary at that time, and give some guidelines about how to go about dealing with coronavirus. But that committee actually continues to function till this date, and they have the mandate for them has been way beyond what we had when we started. They have been organizing all kinds of platforms for some things to happen in the CIE. For example, after lockdown, when the first meetings took place to deal with the exam, and they continue to do so with a great deal of dedication. understanding of how to go about, effort, and sometimes with a lot of, how should I say, firmness. One example of that is that one day when one of our non-teaching staff, he had coronavirus and he had been to many rooms. So a decision was taken to shut down the department for a few days and sanitize. And all of us were thrown out of the building by this very firm committee members. And I remember doing administration work under a tree. So at that day, I first experienced being very close to a Shanti Niketan kind of experience, except that they do their teaching and from under a tree, but we did some administration over there. So that was one occasion that is quite memorable, and they continue to work very hard. When in March, when the we were told that we have to manage the classes online, our response, or I think the whole university's response, was kind of makeshift. I think we did better than most of the others in university because we had an annual mode. So most of our course was taken care of, although we had a long way to go in many other aspects. So the arrangement was left on the teachers, and words like Zoom and Google Meet started entering our vocabulary. I remember a colleague of mine telling me very proudly that he was going to take a class on Zoom, and I didn't know Zoom was what Zoom was, but I kind of said, "Oh, Zoom," and very soon we all had to learn to use it, whether we liked it or not. There was a lot of resistance to it sometimes, a lot of irritation about it, but we learned our way around. In this effort, many of us, people like me, actually, we our roles were flipped with the students. The students became our tutors, and they taught us how to use this online medium. And in my case, they continue to do so. I dare say they did that with much more grace and ability than we have done our jobs. So that was the step that we took at that time. And as we were completing our courses and stuff like that, and worrying about what to do with things like, incomplete dissertations, because many students had gone to their homes and their data was lying in Delhi, and all kinds of problems were there. And we were worrying about it during lockdown. And individual teachers were helping their students. Around that time, Delhi University took the decision to have open book exams, and it went through many discussions. It has been discussed widely, even in the media, so I won't go through that. It was very, how should I say, controversial. There are lots of debate about it. I won't be evaluating that. But when we realized that we had to do open book exam, committees had to be formed, exam committees, again for the first time, looking into how to go about. Now, the committees themselves were all the members, and the committees included both teaching and non-teaching staff. And we really didn't know what would be the nature of it. We were very nervous about it, very worried about it, but we went about our business, trying to get ready and prepare our students. It has been a grueling summer for all the members of these committees and even other faculty who chose to help us. We were worried that our students should not suffer any adverse kind of effect, due to anxiety or anything like that. We had to prepare them to deal with this new medium, and there were many trial rounds done. And I must say that even though due to lockdown and subsequent events, we have been deprived of many human touch, there the concern for students, which is a kind of a hallmark of CI, actually showed in full force. And I'm proud to report that every single student was contacted for MEd and BEd, and they were helped by the faculty who were in charge and the non-teaching staff, and they were successfully able to take their exam. So, as I said, we can't evaluate exactly the whole mode of OBE, and we'll be thinking about it both in from the university and our department's perspective, but we did that with a great deal of concern about students. So that was one major challenge that we have dealt with and completed our work only recently. Normally by July, all that would be done and it would be quite a mechanical process, but this time it was very anxiety ridden, but we managed to complete it successfully. When our classes started for the admission has gone on, and the admission was for MEd and BEd students was concluded only a few weeks back, and they have started their session a couple weeks back, which is another new thing, that it is so late for them. And I must say that the admission committees have struggled also because their new semester started. They had to, new year started in terms of teaching, and they were also completing their admission related job. For instance, one of the committees which is in charge of school experience program, many members were also members of admission committee, so they had to tackle both of it together, which they have done with great deal of courage and grace. When the new term began in August and with our second year students, this time we knew that although in March, whatever we did was kind of makeshift and responding to the situation, we realized that we needed to do a lot of planning. So one committee again had to be formed, which looked into online mode of teaching. It was a committee, advisory committee, and it is functional and very active. So their job was to prepare us to teach better, and they did workshops for the teachers. Their job was also to prepare students to deal with various resources and classes, which again they did. But an additional job that they had to do was to um, actually find out what problems students were facing or what did they want. So our policy has been that we started the session, we tried out some ideas, and then we take time to review it and then modify that. For example, the number of classes taken. So they have been doing that, and we are looking at that, and I'll come to that a little bit later. um, Another committee, every department in the university has dealt with coronavirus in their different ways with their specific problem. Our problem is that we are a very field dependent program. I mean, it's not a problem, it's a good thing, but this year it did become a problem. That what do we do with this program? And I'm glad to say that there was voluntarily a committee was formed which actually developed policies for dealing with the schools and working out all the practicums that we have. Our dissertations also actually depend a lot on the field, and we are still dealing with that. So this is yet another committee, and now we are going through our program in a systematic manner. And the students who are really, they had to deal with a lot of problems, because once they reported to me that not only did they have to take classes, but all the materials were shared online and they were just staring at their screen whole day. Apart from the difficulty which many students faced in not having the proper equipment or sharing it with their siblings or their other members of their family. So all this is there and we continue to grapple with it. These are special committees which are still functioning and dealing and helping us navigate through these troubled times. The regular committees also are, their job has not been that regular this year. For example, the timetable committee, which routinely makes a very complicated timetable in CIE, their task was became more complex this year because they had also to deal with online kind of timetable. So nothing this year is routine. Everything has to be thought through and worked out. And there is often a lot of worry and nervousness that how would we go about it. The stand that we have taken is that we'll be flexible, we'll modify, and we'll go ahead. Our PhD students and MPhil students have had their share of problems because for several months, examination branch was the section which dealt with PhD students was not available. And anyway, exam branch was beleaguered dealing with OBE exams. Um, but finally, we are going through, they are able to, I mean, even though it is delayed, they are completing their dissertations and we have to develop we had to develop the online Viva mode, and it has gone quite well. There are some things that we had to trade off. And for example, more dynamic discussions after the Viva, we couldn't have that. And one other loss that we had, which you can consider minor or major depending on your viewpoint, is the mandatory celebration after the successful defense of their PhD dissertation, and loss of the mandatory burfi that we have had. But anyway, we are going on with that also. Um, and a committee which is right now working, again responding to the needs, and two of our senior most faculty are working, developing some guidelines, or trying to educate us and the students about mental health issues, which is quite prominent in these very traumatic and troubled times. During the year, we have tried to, first priority has been that CIE space where our non-teaching staff has been coming and all of us are coming, that it should be safe. But there are many of our colleagues, many faculty, non-teaching staff, students who were affected by coronavirus, and fortunately they made good recovery. But their families were affected. Many of them lost their uh, dear ones. And this tragedy we have all faced this year, and we continue to work in those circumstances. Um, I would next like to just talk about, how we have gone through this year. But next, I would just want to just mention that what are the challenges or specific sections of the our department has dealt with. So I'll begin with non-teaching staff who have been our lifeline. They had their share of transfers, and our SO was transferred this year. We have a new AR, Dr. Pradeep, and he's here, brings his knowledge into it. Then we have Mr. Satpal, who came as a SO. So they all have been dealing with this challenge of learning the ways of a new department and dealing with coronavirus related issues at that time. I'm very happy to say that despite all the difficulties, they have kept our department afloat, whether it is dealing with the finances, preparing a student list, helping with admission, dealing with our website, and all the other help that was needed. And many times, most of them have gone beyond what was expected of them to make it a functional place. So we have every reason to feel very grateful and proud of them. One of the worry has been that many of them have to go often to the administration department in the university, which was again afflicted really badly by coronavirus. But they have done their best to keep things afloat. Sometimes things have been slow, but that was because of the circumstances. Uh, the most important people for us are our students, and I really feel for what all they have gone through. I have already mentioned the online related some of the problems and dealing with a new mode. But one day I just realized in our staff council meetings, where we often talk about our students, that they are also deprived of each other's company. It has become very subject oriented, that they come, they take their classes alone. They don't get to interact with their friends and with us. Many times we are just staring at a screen instead of looking at faces. And that has been very tough for them. Uh, just now, when our first year students are in the business of choosing their optional, I told them that why don't you ask your second year students about some guidance, that what do they feel about the courses. And I was told that how would we know who the second year students are? Because now they are deprived of these spaces where they can meet. And slowly we started realizing that we really have to do something to create spaces for other kinds of interaction. So a program in music has been arranged next week, and we are taking their activity and interaction, other kinds of interaction, what we call co-curricular, more seriously. Now, many retired faculty who are here with us would be smiling because we have come a full circle. The wheel has turned a full circle, and we are back to taking it more seriously. The all round, needs of the students and their growth, not just attending classes and going away or doing the practicum and going away. So that is also very important. The students also, the first year students who have come again, this is the first time that is happening, that they never even get to see our CI campus or the building, or they haven't even seen it there, and just their exposure to that is just in looking into pictures of the building. So I hope it will get better and they will be there and we'll be actually interacting with each other and feel experiencing the human touch. Our faculty has been struggling, as I also said, that one remarkable thing about this year is that we don't seem to get any closure. Even in admissions, we don't have a closure, because just now we are going to, just this week, we have had a meeting about our MPhil and PhD admission. So that goes on as we do our teaching. And I think that the faculty has dealt with all the problem with great deal of courage and grace, and dealt with the new medium. Sometimes people are justifiably irritated about this thing that we are dealing with and resist the new forms. But there we are doing our best with our students and trying to learn about that. Um, just a second. We also, at this point, I also want to mention some people who are affiliated to us. And because of that, our lives have been very easy, but who themselves have suffered a lot. And I particularly want to mention our canteen manager, Mr. Negi, who makes our life easy and livable in CI by providing us all the refreshment and tea, etc. And actually, if it was a normal year, he'd be getting our refreshment ready now. But he has been deprived of his business for 10 months and continue to suffer. We were successful in saving all the contractual employees, their jobs. But in his case, that has been a problem. And I think that as an institution, we should take some responsibility about that and try to help out. Similarly, the photocopier person, he also lost his business this year because there's nobody there to get things photocopied. And we should remember that in a normal year, he again contributes immensely to the life in our lives in CIE. Otherwise, we'd be running to Patel Chest for everything. So these are some things that we need to think about. You know, uh, the other thing I want to mention is that all the Safai Karmchari, and especially their manager, she has been very capable, and I think that they have done an excellent job in CIE, because Safai is important anytime, cleanliness, but this year it takes a special meaning that everything should be in order. So I think that we should be very grateful to them also. Now, this is the report of what happened in the year, but there are 2 or 3 things that I'd just like to briefly mention that we need to think about as an institution. First of all, we are dealing with a pandemic, and it is education at the times of dealing with a disaster. And in Delhi, we have been more or less lucky. We can, one thing that happens generally in institutions is that we view education in a very static kind of context. Nothing changes. But because of pandemic, all of us have had to deal with problems and then trying to keep the business of running an institution and for the students to come and attend classes. I'd like to call attention to the fact that even before pandemic in February, many of our students were impacted in Delhi because they came from areas which had been affected by riots. And actually, we were aware of that. They asked for extension. They said that we could not collect data, for example, in their dissertations. And it was taken on one-to-one basis. But I think that in future, because of the lesson we have learned now, it should become part of a policy to think about what happens to students. In this case, the context is the whole world. The whole world is impacted by it. So we are talking about it more. But we need to remember that our students in us, they come from our students and children. They also, they are always don't come from very comfortable kind of situation. Sometimes a demolition drive of a colony can impact them. There are natural disasters, man-made disasters, children in conflict zone, children studying in refugee camps, or young people trying to get along their lives and getting through education in these circumstances. This hasn't been there have been students who have done dissertations in that, but this, I, as far as I know, we haven't addressed this in our curriculum in any way. Being a department of education, we need to think about it and include it as part of our building understanding for faculty and for students. The other thing is that many times when we dealt with this year, we wondered what others did in similar situation. So when the Spanish flu happened in 1918, none of us were around at that time. I think even, I don't think I know that even Delhi University wasn't there. So we could not take any, how should I say, we could not learn any lessons from what happened then. I think as a department, when we look ahead, we should prepare some documentation about what happened, how we dealt. And so far, we have been just surviving with this. But I think it is very important to understand what was happening, to build our sensitivity and understanding about it, to show some sensitivity and solidarity with people who suffer, even at a local level, in terms of disaster. And in CI, we need to prepare more documentation and platforms. For example, for students to tell us how they experienced this year in its entirety. So that is a task which we have often referred to in the council briefly, but now we need to develop policies about that. Otherwise, the task of dealing with this disastrous year would be incomplete. Second thing is that this online teaching that we have dealt with, and there is a lot about it in the media, it has been discussed. But coming specifically to the context of CI, we have done what we could to enable students to deal with it. In fact, our school experience program committee has worked in preparing is extra skill in dealing with online classes. I'm sure we can do better and better in that. But I think personally that, when a technology comes, it doesn't go away completely. And we have our worries about it, that how policies would be formed around it across the world, because now almost all of us are dealing with it online. But in the context of CI, I want to say that many things that we learn, the human aspect of education, what people say like all round development, as soon as you enter CI, you hear that, and how that gets impacted by online. Right now, we can't be with each other. But online has enabled us to do this. If it wasn't there, we wouldn't be able to do that. So I think that we can't think about online as a great divide, either online or going back to the old mode. Online aspects of it will be with us, and we should learn to deal with it sensibly. But many things, the other extreme is to get very excited about it and not analyze it. There are trade-offs. For example, in our classrooms, um, students can't interact with each other. We talk about dialogues in classroom that can't happen. Activity based learning or interactions, all of these aspects, discussions get impacted. At least I find it very problematic to conduct discussions, because students may respond to me one to one, to develop ways in which they can respond to each other. And I'm sure there must be technology dealing with that, but it is kind of difficult. It is also a bit disheartening not to see faces in front of you with smile or reaction or a frown, but all you see is a blank screen. And that can be very annoying. So those are the trade-offs. We need to think about that what do we give up in adopting this online mode. But we also have to remember that some things are possible because of online. After all the protests that we have against online is also done online. In summer, there were some webinars, and that is another new word that entered our vocabulary, organized by faculty in this department, and I was invited to uh, those webinars. One thing I noticed when I was reading the comments in the chat box, that there were people who had joined our webinars from places like Lakhimpur, Kodarma, and in a normal year, they would not, many of them would not be able to come to Delhi and participate in that webinar. So in this way, I must say that it helps us in connecting to other parts of the country and other people, which I think is very important for students in Delhi. Even though Delhi is a metropolitan city, sometimes it can be very insular and distant from the rest of the country. So that is not a necessarily bad thing to happen. You know, it's a good thing. But we should see it in its entirety and evaluate that. Again, as an institution, we should prepare our own documentation and study what happened to us. I read about some university in America where they were actually compiling the journals written at the time of pandemic. I think that it is important for us and the students and all others to do that and compile that and study that. That is our job. So I'll stop over here. And I just want to add that the school, our basic school, which we had planned last year to build more ties with the basic school, not just administrative, that the children are not coming to the school, obviously, and they are also struggling along. But we are doing things to get them ready when they come back, trying to um, clean up the space available to them so that they can do some of their gardening with not gardening, I mean, not just gardening, but looking at plants and all with our students and getting some swing and other things installed. So we are trying to work around it, though it is difficult. I hope we are able to do that and are better prepared when they come back and we interact with them more. I think I should stop. I have talked about CI's role and how CI has impacted. This is 1 year we have had to think about our institution a lot. And as I said earlier, we have all responded with that feeling of being members of CI. Many people have gone beyond what was expected of them to make it, keep afloat and do well. So this year, when we talked about Foundation Day, I thought that it would be a good idea to discuss the CIE story, the history of CIE. So we'll move on to the our faculty who are very who have contributed immensely to CIE life. They'll be talking about it. I just want to say that this is just one in a series of conversations that we need to have about CIE. I believe that earlier also attempts were made to look into the history of CIE and all. I think we need to make it more systematic and prepare some archives about it, that what happened, because after all, an institution reflects what is happening in the larger society. So we have had a role to play and we need to record that. So after that, I'll just stop. And I thank you again for joining us today in this to celebrate our Foundation Day. And over to you, Mahima. You can move on to the next part. Thank you.
Uh, Thank you very much, ma'am, for sharing your thoughts. And in spite of all the hardships we have been going through, and we are fighting with the CI spirit, I think it's right time. With all that nostalgia, which the teachers were mentioning right at the beginning, let's start with our theme. The theme for today is the CI story, retrospective of an institutional journey. Our first speaker is Professor Krishna Kumar. He has worked in CI for several decades and was the dean and head of the department from 1988 to 1991. He was the director of NCRT from 2004 to 2010. The National Curriculum Framework 2005, along with position papers on key issues in education, were prepared under his able leadership, which led to a revision of all NCRT textbooks. He has been a recipient of many national as well as international fellowships and awards, including Padma Shri in 2011, and honorary D.Litt in education from University of London in the same year. His writings in Hindi and English, which have subsequently been translated into various languages, cover a wide range of issues spanning from sociology, philosophy, and history of education, elementary education, curriculum studies, girls' education, and peace education. As a teacher, he has been a mentor to many students like us and continue to inspire us through his thorough understanding, thought-provoking writings, and talks. It is indeed an honor and a pleasure to have him with us for this Foundation Day celebration this year. Welcome. Uh,
स्थापना दिवस के अवसर पर मैं सीआई की अध्यक्ष प्रोफेसर शोभा सिन्हा, उनके सभी सहयोगियों और छात्रों को इस अवसर पर बधाई देता हूं। इस अवसर पर चर्चा के लिए रखा गया विषय हर दृष्टिकोण से महत्वपूर्ण है, केवल इस कारण ही नहीं कि आज के एक विशेष तरह के समस्या मूलक वातावरण में हम स्थापना दिवस मना रहे हैं। इसके अलावा भी ये एक महत्वपूर्ण विषय है कि संस्थाई इतिहास किस तरह हमारी दृष्टि को व्यापक बनाता है, और प्रश्न केवल संस्थाई इतिहास जानने का नहीं है, बल्कि इतिहास दृष्टि के विकास का है, जो शिक्षा का एक महत्वपूर्ण अंग है। सीआई के साथ ये एक महत्वपूर्ण बिंदु जुड़ा हुआ है कि इसका इतिहास स्थापना से पहले शुरू हो चुका था। आशय है कि इसका एक वैचारिक इतिहास है, सिर्फ एक संस्थाई इतिहास नहीं है। क्योंकि इसका इतिहास एक वैचारिक इतिहास है, इसलिए सिर्फ व्यक्तियों की मदद से उसको याद करना या अध्यक्षों के आने जाने के वर्षों के माध्यम से उसको समझना पर्याप्त नहीं है। सीआई की स्थापना वैसे तो आजादी के वर्ष में हुई है, लेकिन इसकी स्थापना का विचार 1944 में ब्रिटिश शासन द्वारा स्थापित किया गया सार्जेंट कमीशन दे चुका था। सार्जेंट कमीशन द्वितीय विश्व युद्ध की समाप्ति के संकेत मिलने के साथ ही इस आशय से स्थापित किया गया था कि ये विश्व युद्ध के समाप्त होने के बाद भारत में शिक्षा की पुनर्रचना की एक योजना पेश करेगा, और ये योजना उसने पेश की जो कि सेंट्रल एडवाइजरी बोर्ड ऑफ एजुकेशन के में प्रस्तुत की गई, और उसने इसको मंजूरी दी। और इस योजना में एक बड़ी चीज थी कि 6 से 11 साल के हर बच्चे की शिक्षा अनिवार्य होगी, और इसके अलावा कई और अनुशंसाएं हाई स्कूल की और विश्वविद्यालय की शिक्षा के लिए भी थी। पर अध्यापकों की और खासकर प्राथमिक स्तर के लिए बहुत अच्छे अध्यापकों की आवश्यकता को इस कमीशन ने रेखांकित किया और विचार दिया कि एक ऐसा संस्थान बनाया जाए, एक सेंट्रल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ एजुकेशन की स्थापना का विचार इसी कमीशन के मेमोरेंडम से उपजा। अब इसके नाम पर विचार करें तो और भी दृष्टि मिलती है कि अंग्रेजों की दुनिया में जब भारत एक उपनिवेश था, उस समय 1880 के दशक में एक सेंट्रल ट्रेनिंग कॉलेज अविभाजित भारत में यानी कि लाहौर में स्थापित हो चुका था। तो अब सेंट्रल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ एजुकेशन को नया क्यों माना जाए, इस बात का उत्तर जानने के लिए इन दोनों संस्थाओं के नामों पर विचार करना जरूरी है। लाहौर की संस्था का नाम था सेंट्रल ट्रेनिंग कॉलेज और जिस संस्था का स्थापना दिवस समारोह हम आज मना रहे हैं, उसका नाम रखा गया सेंट्रल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ एजुकेशन। और ये जो दो शब्द हैं, इंस्टीट्यूट, कॉलेज की जगह इंस्टीट्यूट, और ट्रेनिंग की जगह एजुकेशन, इन दो से हमें उस समय के विचार का, स्वप्न का एक अंदाज लगता है कि ये कोई ऐसा कॉलेज नहीं है जहां से अध्यापकों को उनकी भर्ती के लिए जरूरी योग्यता या डिग्री दी जाएगी। ऐसे तो कई कॉलेज उस समय भारत में खुल चुके थे, चेन्नई में, मुंबई में, कोलकाता में, और लाहौर में ये सेंट्रल कॉलेज था। इसके अलावा नागपुर में, जबलपुर में, इस तरह के कई कॉलेज थे। तो उन सब के बीच में एक इंस्टीट्यूट का विचार काफी इस बात पर प्रकाश डालता है कि शिक्षा के लिए एक ऐसे संस्थान की कल्पना थी जहां अध्यापकों को रखकर पढ़ाने की शिक्षा के एक बड़े संदर्भ में दी जाएगी। शिक्षा का बड़ा संदर्भ यानी शिक्षा पर विचार के संदर्भ में। और शिक्षा पर विचार का आधार क्या होगा? तो उस आधार की भी कल्पना समझ में आती है जब हम उस समय के सीआई को याद करते हैं कि उस आधार का एक हिस्सा रिसर्च से आना था और दूसरा हिस्सा आना था प्रयोग से, एक्सपेरिमेंट से। अब इन दोनों शब्दों का थोड़ा सा खुलासा जरूरी है, और अब ये भी याद रखना जरूरी है कि जरूर सीआई एक स्वातंत्र्योत्तर भारत के लिए एक बहुत बड़ी कल्पना थी। तभी उस समय के प्रधानमंत्री जवाहरलाल नेहरू इस संस्था का, इसके भवन का शिलान्यास करने यहाँ आए थे। और जब संस्था खुलने को तैयार थी तो उस समय तत्कालीन शिक्षा मंत्री मौलाना अबुल कलाम आजाद ने इसका उद्घाटन भाषण दिया था। इस सब से अंदाज लगता है कि सेंट्रल इंस्टीट्यूट एक बड़ी कल्पना का हिस्सा था। भारत में शिक्षा के कुछ आमूल सुधारों की जननी ये संस्था बनने जा रही थी। और इसके ये जो दो हिस्से हैं कि एक इंस्टीट्यूट होने के नाते ये रिसर्च पर आधारित शैक्षिक विचार विमर्श विकसित करेगी, और दूसरा कि ये एक प्रयोगशील संस्था होगी। इन दोनों पर अब विचार किया जा सकता है। अब आज का समय है, हम जब अपने छात्रों से रिसर्च की बात करते हैं तो उनके दिमाग में सबसे पहले इंटरनेट की सर्च आती है। जब इंटरनेट आरंभ हुआ आज से कोई 20-25 साल पहले, तो समझा गया था कि ये हमारे वैचारिक और शैक्षिक जो क्षितिज हैं, हमारी समझ है, उस क्षितिज को खोलेगा, विस्तार देगा, और इसलिए रिसर्च की दुनिया भी उससे फैलेगी। किंतु आज हम खुद देख रहे हैं, खासकर अपने छात्रों के बीच में, कि इंटरनेट ने रिसर्च की खोज को इंटरनेट में ही सीमित कर दिया है। यानी कि विस्तार देने की जगह खोज का दायरा सिकुड़ सा गया है, और स्वयं इंटरनेट के पास, इंटरनेट के भीतर ऐसा प्रशिक्षण देने की बहुत कम सामर्थ्य है जो आज के युवा एक रिसर्चर को बतला सके कि प्रामाणिक ज्ञान कहाँ है और उसको दूसरे किस्म के अप्रामाणिक ज्ञान से अलग कैसे किया जाए। एक बड़ा सवाल है आज इंटरनेट की दुनिया में, और ये सवाल हमको याद दिलाता है कि रिसर्च को अगर हमको अपनी संस्था के उषा काल के संदर्भ में देखना है तो हमें कुछ सोचना होगा कि उस समय कैसी रिसर्च हुई। तो उसकी बानगी इस संस्था के बड़े यशस्वी प्राचार्य अनासनाथ बासु, जिनके नाम पर संस्था का आज का एक सभागार रखा गया है, उनकी रिसर्च से अंदाज लगता है कि रिसर्च की क्या समझ और कल्पना रही होगी। उन्होंने लंदन जाकर काफी मेहनत से भारतीय शिक्षा पर ब्रिटिश पार्लियामेंट में जो तमाम ऐतिहासिक बहसें 20वीं सदी में और उसके पहले 19वीं सदी में हुई, उनके मूल दस्तावेज प्राप्त करके उनको प्रकाशित किया। इंडियन एजुकेशन इन पार्लियामेंट्री पेपर्स 1952 का ये महत्वपूर्ण ग्रंथ है जो बासु ने स्वयं रिसर्च करके बनाया था। और उनके पहले पीएचडी छात्र प्रोफेसर सुरेश शुक्ल, जो बाद में विभाग के अध्यक्ष भी रहे, उनकी पीएचडी जो बासु साहब के निर्देशन में हुई, उसका विषय भी 19वीं सदी की भारतीय शिक्षा व्यवस्था थी। और उस तत्कालीन शिक्षा व्यवस्था के आलोक में शिक्षा की समस्याओं को समझने का एक सामाजिक इतिहास रचने का प्रयास थी वो थीसिस, जो हमारी लाइब्रेरी में आज है, किसी न किसी रूप में उपलब्ध है। ये दो उदाहरण अंदाज देते हैं कि रिसर्च से उस समय क्या आशय था कि शिक्षा को एक बड़े संदर्भ में समझा जाए, एक बड़े सामाजिक और ऐतिहासिक संदर्भ में समझा जाए। आर्थिक और राजनीतिक प्रभाव किस तरह शिक्षा को, उसकी नीति को, उसके अभ्यास को, शिक्षण को, स्कूलों को, पाठ्यपुस्तकों को, पाठ्यक्रम को प्रभावित करते हैं, ऐसा एक बहुत बड़ा परिप्रेक्ष्य लेना रिसर्च से, ये आशय लगता है उस समय रहा होगा और उसकी नींव एकदम शुरुआती दौर में ही पड़ गई। और ये जो दूसरा पहलू है कि ये संस्था प्रयोगशील होगी, एक्सपेरिमेंट करेगी, इसका अगर कोई ऐतिहासिक हमको प्रमाण चाहिए तो वो सीआईई के साथ जो स्कूल आज तक जुड़ा हुआ है उसके नाम में हमको ये प्रमाण मिलता है। उसका बोर्ड अगर देखें तो उसका नाम ही है सीआईई बेसिक एक्सपेरिमेंटल स्कूल। और इसका उद्देश्य हम समझ सकते हैं यही था कि प्रयोग के जरिए शिक्षण की प्रक्रिया को सुधारा जाए, बदला जाए। और जिस तरह की प्रयोगशीलता इस संस्था के साथ शुरू से ही जुड़ी, प्रोफेसर बासु के समय में जुड़ गई, वो प्रयोगशीलता भारत के दो बड़े चिंतकों की दी हुई थी। एक तो गांधी की, जिनका नाम इस संस्था के नाम में है बेसिक एक्सपेरिमेंटल स्कूल। बेसिक से आशय ही है नई तालीम से जुड़े हुए प्रयोग को अब रिसर्च के माध्यम से देखना, फैलाना, समझना। और मुझे याद है कि एक बड़ा रोचक उस समय का एक एमए डिसर्टेशन जो कि बिल्कुल शुरुआती वर्षों की एक छात्रा कमला ने लिखा था, हमारी लाइब्रेरी में है वो, जिसमें बिना पाठ्य पुस्तकों की पढ़ाई जो कि उस समय स्कूल में होती थी, जैसा कि गांधी का विचार था, उसको समझने की कोशिश उस डिसर्टेशन में की गई है। और दूसरी प्रयोगशीलता जो कि इस स्कूल के साथ आरंभ से ही जुड़ी, वो थी टैगोर की प्रयोगशीलता, जो उन्होंने शांति निकेतन में और अपने लेखन में व्यक्त की थी, जिसमें कला का और गांधी की तरह से लोक कलाओं का बड़ा महत्वपूर्ण स्थान निर्धारित किया गया था। और इन दोनों बड़े चिंतकों के दर्शन के जरिए और आधुनिक तरीकों से रिसर्च करने के जरियों को विकसित करके सीआईई में नींव पड़ी इस बात की कि ये संस्था सिर्फ ट्रेनिंग नहीं देती है, यहाँ पर शिक्षकों का प्रशिक्षण एक बड़े परिप्रेक्ष्य में होता है। और ये बड़ा परिप्रेक्ष्य है शिक्षा को एक बड़े विचार से जोड़ना। और ये विचार अनिवार्य रूप से एक नए देश के रूप में, एक नई राष्ट्रीय सभ्यता के रूप में भारत के विचार से जुड़ा हुआ था कि अगर भारत को कुछ ऐसा बनना है जो पहले नहीं था, जिसकी कल्पना उसके संविधान में है, जो कि एक परिवर्तनकारी कल्पना है। तो फिर ऐसे भारत को ऐसी शिक्षा चाहिए होगी जो पहले नहीं है, पहले नहीं थी, कभी नहीं थी, और हमारे पास कोई उसका पहले से बना हुआ प्रारूप भी नहीं है। उसको हमें गढ़ना होगा, अपने प्रयास से गढ़ना होगा। ये दोनों चीजें इस स्कूल की और इस स्कूल का जो संबंध CIE से था, उन दोनों में ये बात निहित थी। और इस बात को रेखांकित करते हुए ये कहना जरूरी है कि आज हम स्कूल को जिस रूप में देखते हैं, ये रूप उस समय के रूप से बहुत भिन्न था। एक छोटा सा ऐतिहासिक प्रमाण इस बात से मिलता है कि 1970 के दशक की शुरुआत में जब प्रोफेसर KN राज दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय के वाइस चांसलर नियुक्त हुए, तो उनका बेटा इसी स्कूल में पढ़ने के लिए भेजा गया। इस छोटे से उदाहरण से अनुमान लगता है कि इस स्कूल का उस समय के समाज में, उस समय की व्यवस्था में इसकी क्या हैसियत रही होगी। ये जो पूरी चर्चा आज बहुत संक्षेप में हम कर रहे हैं, इसको एक विशेष आधार देने के लिए बड़ा जरूरी है ये कहना कि CIE अपने आप में कई विचारों की जन्मभूमि भी थी। जाहिर है कि आजादी के पहले दशक के साथ ही तरह तरह की और संस्थाओं का निर्माण जरूरी माना गया था। आजाद भारत के आजादी के कुछ ही समय बाद माध्यमिक शिक्षा आयोग की स्थापना हुई। उसने कई प्रकार की अनुशंसा दी। उनमें से एक अनुशंसा एक बड़ी राष्ट्रीय परिषद बनाने की भी थी, और उस परिषद को, उस विचार को अमली जामा देने का काम CIE में ही इसके पहली मंजिल पर शुरू हुआ। और अंत में जब 1962 में NCERT की स्थापना हुई, तो NCERT का दायरा CIE समेत 4 और RIEs का था। यानी कि एक तो सेंट्रल इंस्टीट्यूट होगा और 4 रीजनल इंस्टीट्यूट्स होंगे, भुवनेश्वर, भोपाल, अजमेर और मैसूर में। तो इस तरीके से CIE एक ज्यादा बड़े एक संस्थाई जाल का एक हिस्सा थी, एक श्रृंखला थी संस्थाओं की, जो कि भारत की शिक्षा को एक नई दिशा देंगे। और आप कह सकते हैं, इस तरह से सोचें कि CIE का इतिहास एक बड़ी बिरादरी का संकेत देता है। एक ऐसी बिरादरी जो कई अर्थों में तो राष्ट्रीय थी ही, पर अंतरराष्ट्रीय भी थी। जिस संस्था को उदाहरण बनाकर सार्जेंट कमीशन ने इस संस्था के निर्माण की अनुशंसा की थी, वो संस्था निश्चित रूप से लंदन की इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ एजुकेशन थी, जो कि उस समय के लंदन विश्वविद्यालय से जोड़कर इस तरह बनाई गई थी कि वहां पर अध्यापकों का प्रशिक्षण भी होगा हर स्तर के, यानी कि प्राइमरी से लेकर के और सीनियर सेकेंडरी तक के अध्यापकों का प्रशिक्षण भी होगा, और शोध के जरिए शिक्षा के नए विचारों को भी यहाँ पर जन्म और दिया जाएगा और विकसित किया जाएगा। और दरअसल CIE का जो उस समय का B.Ed का पाठ्यक्रम बना और जो बहुत वर्षों तक रहा, उस पाठ्यक्रम में लंदन के इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ एजुकेशन के पाठ्यक्रम की परछाई देखी जा सकती है। और इसके अलावा वैसे भी CIE चूंकि भारत की उस समय की अग्रणी संस्था थी, इसलिए इसका एक अंतरराष्ट्रीय जगत था। कई देशों के साथ इसके संबंध थे, और वहां से भारत की शिक्षा को देखने आने वालों के लिए CIE एक महत्वपूर्ण जगह थी। और बाकी भारत के भीतर तो उसका अपना एक विशेष स्थान था ही, क्योंकि ये भारत के केंद्रीय सरकार के शिक्षा मंत्रालय का हिस्सा थी, और दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय से उस समय उसका संबंध केवल डिग्री देने के लिए था। और ये जो बाद में अन्य डिग्रियां विकसित हुई, ये भी उस समय विकसित हो चुकी थी, पीएचडी प्रोफेसर बासु के समय में ही शुरू हो चुकी थी। तो इसलिए प्रश्न सिर्फ बीएड, एमएड और पीएचडी का नहीं है, सिर्फ बीएड और एमएड का नहीं है, बल्कि इसमें पीएचडी का भी स्थान है। और उसके बाद सीआईई के विकास क्रम में जो अन्य कार्यक्रम जुड़े, वो भी उसके इतिहास को एक तरह से फलित करने वाले थे। जैसे कि प्राइमरी शिक्षा की कल्पना और प्राइमरी शिक्षा के लिए अध्यापकों को प्रशिक्षित करने की कल्पना शुरू में थी, लेकिन बहुत वर्षों तक वो अवरुद्ध पड़ी रही और अंत में बीएलएड कार्यक्रम के जरिए 90 के दशक में जाकर फलित हुई। तो इस तरीके से देखें तो सीआईई एक विकासमान संस्था और एक विकसित होते हुए या फैलते हुए अपने दायरे में बहुत बड़ी बिरादरी बनाने वाली संस्था थी। उसकी वैचारिक बिरादरी को याद करना इसलिए जरूरी है क्योंकि आजकल हम सोचते हैं कई बार कि अब तो एनसीटी की बिरादरी का ही हम हिस्सा हैं, और ये जो बिरादरी है एनसीटी की, ये तो इंच और फुट वाली या गज और मीटर वाली बिरादरी है कि कितनी ऊंची प्लिंथ होनी चाहिए, कितने कमरे होने चाहिए, कितने अध्यापक होने चाहिए। उस हिसाब से अब संस्थाओं का एक पैमाना बना है जिसमें उनको मान्यता दी जाती है, और इसलिए हम एक वैचारिक बिरादरी को भूल जाते हैं अगर हम सीआईई के इतिहास को लेकर कुछ प्रामाणिक जानकारी प्राप्त न करें। और यही वो बिंदु है जिस पर हमें समझ में आता है कि संस्थाई इतिहास को जानना व्यक्तियों के जरिए या दस्तावेजों के जरिए या इमारत के जरिए, ये सिर्फ ज्ञान नहीं है या सिर्फ जानकारी नहीं है। दरअसल ये एक जरिया है, एक माध्यम है इतिहास दृष्टि के विकास का, क्योंकि इतिहास ही है या इतिहास दृष्टि ही है जो हमें एक वैचारिक चौड़ाई, वैचारिक ऊंचाई देती है, और उस अर्थ में हम फिर एक बहुत बड़ी बिरादरी के हिस्सा बनते हैं और अपने दैनिक काम में एक विशेष तरह की ऊर्जा महसूस करते हैं जो हम शायद महसूस न करते अगर हम केवल इस संस्था से इस नाते जुड़ते कि ये संस्था हमें वेतन देती है या हमें डिग्री देती है, हमें पढ़ने का मौका देती है, या इसमें एक पुस्तकालय है जिसकी हमें सुविधा मिलती है। केवल सुविधाओं का ही एक गुच्छा नहीं है एक संस्था, वो अपने आप में एक अतीत लिए हुए है, और उस अतीत को टटोल कर जब हम इतिहास बनाते हैं, रचते हैं, तो हमारे सामने कई जाहिर है कई निर्णय करने की जरूरत पैदा होती है, सोचने की जरूरत पैदा होती है कि कौन से निर्णय महत्वपूर्ण थे या कौन से निर्णय हैं जिनको मोड़ कहा जा सकता है, कौन से निर्णय हैं जिनके जरिए संस्था फैली, कौन से वो मोड़ हैं जिनमें संस्था वैचारिक रूप से सिकुड़ी, और हम उस सिकुड़न से फिर कैसे मुक्त हो सके, और आज तक हमारा ये प्रयास जारी है। तो ये जो बड़ी एक बिरादरी है जो इतिहास के जरिए मिलती है, जिसके कोई सीमांत नहीं है, ये ज्ञान की बिरादरी है, और इसके जरिए ही हम आज की दुनिया में शिक्षा के संकट को ठीक से समझ पाते हैं। वरना हम सोचेंगे कि जैसे कोरोना काल के संकटों में जो और संस्थाएं जूझ रही हैं उसी तरह हम भी जूझ रहे हैं। उस तरह सोचना एक बहुत ही सक्रिय दृष्टि को जन्म देता है, और सीआईई के साथ अगर इतिहास जोड़ा जाए तो उसका पर्यायवाची ही ये बनता है कि हम अध्यापक शब्द को एक बड़ी मीमांसा दें, अध्यापक को एक बड़े राष्ट्र की, और वो भी एक नए राष्ट्र की परिवर्तनकारी कल्पना से जोड़ के देखें। इस संस्था का स्वतंत्रता के एकदम उषा काल में जन्म हमें आज यही याद दिलाता है, और आज इसकी स्थापना के दिवस के अवसर पर ये याद मुझे बहुत महत्वपूर्ण भी लगती है, सांत्वना भी देती है और ऊर्जा भी देती है। इस अवसर पर एक बार मैं फिर आप सबको बधाई देता हूं, और इस अवसर पर ये विचार व्यक्त करने का अवसर देने के लिए मैं इसकी अध्यक्ष प्रोफेसर शोभा सिन्हा को धन्यवाद भी देता हूं।
Really thought-provoking. It not only gives us a sense of pride, this historical glimpse which he gave, but a lot of sense of responsibility, which with which we have to take this institution forward. Uh, so coming to our next guest of the evening, uh, our next speaker is Professor Nargis Panchapakeshan. She has been a teacher par excellence and had been the Dean, Faculty of Education and Head Department of Education from 1991 to 94 and again from 97 to 98. She has been associated with the conception and implementation of the graduate program in elementary education, which we call as BLED. It was a major endeavor of the time, running successfully even today. She has also played a crucial role in establishment of Maulana Azad Center for Elementary and Social Education, which is an institute of advanced studies and education. She has been a consultant to various governmental and non-governmental organizations and on the advisory board of many important bodies and journals, Contemporary Education Dialogue being just one of them. As an expert of science education, a mentor to innumerable batches of learners, and a guiding light for the department, her role and contribution is truly beyond measures. We cherish and look forward to her continued guidance. Over to you, Nargis ma'am.
Yeah, he can speak now.
You better get over.
Speak, just speak.
Okay. Good morning on this, the 73rd Foundation Day of CIE. I'm participating in this event, but not happily because of the online nature of the program. I guess it is important to mark the occasion, but one misses the festivity and camaraderie of the occasion that one was used to. I'm also not very happy about my involvement in this occasion. And again, it is against my inclination, but the persuasiveness of the head prevailed, and so here I am. Unlike the previous speaker, which was such an erudite presentation, my presentation will be more of a personal journey. I did not come into CIE cold, but cool. I was admitted to Delhi University as a student in 1952 and was in residence at Miranda House, which adjoins CIE. Unfortunately, during my student days, we at Miranda House did not think very highly of CIE. My head of department, I was then a student of the physics department, looked down upon CIE, and according to him, Professor Basu, who was the principal at that time, was not a well-respected professor in Delhi University. This, I feel, may be because of the status of the disciplines in the institution he was heading. This lack of a recognition and appreciation of a professional institution like CIE was handed down for several decades, including the time when I was head. The then Vice Chancellor just could not or did not want to understand the complexities of a professional institution, dealing with the discipline of teacher education and education. This lack of understanding and perception about CIE has, in my opinion, been rather unfortunate for our development. Not only was such a perception misplaced, but it has no sound basis. This I say on my experience, based on my experience at CIE. The vision of what an educational institution should do or be willing to do differs considerably depending upon the nature of the discipline. Physics, being far from social reality, its goals and focus were rather impersonalized. Its reality lay in its equations and its laboratories. Whereas for a living discipline like teacher education, the focus lies elsewhere. For me, the ethos at CIE was a welcome change. It was warm and welcoming, focusing on the individual, whether student or teacher, underlying the dignity of the individual. I was a total stranger to the world of the teacher education enterprise, but soon was oriented and socialized into this world. For me, the emphasis on student-centeredness was an important part of being a teacher, and this was such a necessary part of being at CIE. It was part of the system, the curriculum, and not a voluntary effort on the part of an individual teacher. Student-centeredness was made possible through the mode of assessment, of which internal assessment was a required component, through the tutorial system, which was tuned not only to academic matters, but other student concerns. Plenty of activities of a non-academic nature, for instance, excursion trips to various parts of India to fulfill academic requirements plus sightseeing. Such trips involved considerable planning and organization for the students, with required help from faculty and organization for the students with help from the faculty responsible for the trip. There were combined student-teacher sports events and of course theater and music activities and also the flower show. These kinds of activities had curricular aims. They were to develop an aesthetic sense, to promote cooperation, teamwork, leadership, undertaking responsibility, managerial skills, etc., all of which are required qualities to be developed in would-be teachers. Time was also provided for fun and enjoyment, which also extended to the faculty. Their performance on valedictory day was a memorable experience. I remember the fun we all had, since it was also an occasion to mingle as a community with entities other than academic duties and responsibilities. I want to focus a bit on the system of internal assessment because I came from a system or a department where one's achievement was certified by one exam at the end of 3 years. It now has fortunately changed. And we were also oblivious of the rationale of marking. Internal assessment at CIE allowed for the faculty to follow the development of a student during school experience, as well as the use of small projects which departed from the traditional bookish assessment of internal examinations. The external examination was thought necessary for objectivity. A certain amount of objectivity was perhaps sacrificed in favor of validity. Another aspect that I would like to share with you is the ease of doing business, not in the sense of the Indian state, but vis-a-vis the responsibility of the faculty in designing its programs for various courses which were being conducted at CIE. There was considerable flexibility and freedom in revising courses, designing new courses at all program levels. This was, of course, within the constraints of the requirements of the UGC, NCTE, the statutes, ordinances of Delhi University, and most worryingly, political opposition. When new courses were introduced, there were the usual hiccups, which were sometimes resolved with difficulty and at other times with greater ease. There are 3 such efforts that I want to recount. The first was designing a course on gender at the MPhil level. If I remember correctly, it was the first such course in the programs of CIE. Since this area was not of my specialization, it required a lot of hard work, time in the library, and taking the help of one or two colleagues in putting together the course and its readings. There was opposition to it, but luckily our MPhil committee at that time had faculty members from other departments, and because of the support, it was finally approved. This effort was followed by courses on gender studies at the MEd level. So one was successful in introducing the area of gender studies into the programs of CIE, which has now become compulsory in teacher education programs. The second effort stemmed from a concern that a prestigious Department of Education, which ought to be a beacon for other institutions, showed no commitment, interest in the area of elementary teacher education. A group of faculty members felt strongly that the disregard of the foundation of education for young children must be dealt with. So a committee was constituted to induct into the CIE B.Ed program a unit dealing with elementary primary education. Courses in the methodology of teaching three courses, namely math, education, language, and environmental science, were developed with the proviso that students opting for these courses required to take the optional course on primary education. Other changes were the requirement that all such students be grouped in one tutorial and undertake projects in the domain of primary education to satisfy the requirements of psychology practicals. The effort at a formal recognition of the importance of teacher education at the primary level was very gratifying because the academic neglect of the education of young children in institutions of higher education was just not understandable. Even though Maulana Azad had stated at the time of the inauguration of CIE that a focus on primary education must be a mandate for the institution. This mandate was ignored in CIE programs, perhaps because of the highly mistaken emphasis on the education of the middle school and older child, which was the traditional position of departments of education. This effort finally culminated in a recognized teacher education degree program at the elementary level called the BLEd. Fortunately, after tremendous courage and intense effort, a unit called Maulana Azad Center for Elementary and Social Education, MACASE, was established at CIE. The establishment of the center, causing many heartbreaks to some, enabled, amongst other things, the introduction of the degree program at the elementary level. In this effort, there were no hiccups. It was a difficult war. There was a strong opposition to MACASE and hence to programs under its umbrella. There was opposition to a respectable teacher education program at the elementary level, and maybe there was disagreement with the people involved in developing this program. In any case, the struggle was immense and several strategies had to be worked out and undertaken to enable the program to take off. Chief among the architects of the program was Professor Poonam Batra, who was really the bulwark of the program. Thankfully, there were several faculty members from the department and from other Delhi University institutions who helped and supported us in this endeavor. Chief amongst the supporters was the CEO of the university, that is the Vice Chancellor. I wonder if the program would have ever taken off without his active backing. There were other systemic provisions which were enabling: the Faculty of Education, the Standing Committee of the Academic Council, and the Academic Council itself. Once it was approved by Delhi University, the UGC had to recognize the degree. So there were extensive negotiations with the UGC, including an open house explaining the purpose, its highlights, and importance of the program. The struggle continued because of interaction with the Directorate of Education, Government of Delhi, had to be initiated to ensure the eligibility for recruitment for the graduates of the program as teachers. Amongst many features of the program was the important one of only allowing it in a multidisciplinary institution. This requirement preempted the requirement in NEP of multidisciplinary institutions. Also, all new programs recognized by NCT are to be placed only in multidisciplinary institutions. The BLEd is a 4-year program, but necessarily in an institution which has multidisciplinary faculty who are willing to cooperate with the professional teacher education program. We can be proud of having been successful in legitimizing elementary teacher education in higher education. This success should go a long way in espousing the inclusion of teacher education in higher education all over the country. I hope I have been able to share a flavor of my time at CIE in the context of its strengths. I retired more than 20 years ago, so there may be inaccuracies in my presentation, which should be overlooked on account of a dimming of memory in my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for this vivid recount of events. It also gives us an inspiration and a glimpse of how much courage one needs to believe in one's own convictions, and how much strength it takes to move ahead and bring the institution where it is today. We move on to our next speaker. Our third speaker is Professor Shyam Menon. He has been teaching in CI since 1994. He was the head and dean, Faculty of Education from 2000 to 2005. He was also the founding vice chancellor of Ambedkar University, Delhi, leading a team of scholars and professionals in building a public university of repute dedicated to social sciences and humanities. He led the university for good 10 years, after which he rejoined us in CI in 2018. He has been one of the international advisory boards of many journals such as Comparative Education, and also served on the Task Force on Access and Equity in Higher Education, constituted by the International Association of Universities. His role in various capacities as an expert, an advisory member of various boards, committees, and task forces, as an administrator, and as an academician are reflective of his dedication, sincerity, sharp acumen, and ability to turn visions into reality. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mahima. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Dean Professor Shobha Sinha, for asking me to be part of this panel. I must first of all state here my deepest appreciation for the manner in which Professor Sinha presented the annual report. It was done in a deeply humane and sensitive manner and demonstrated an acute sense of history and social responsibility and connectedness with the larger ecosystem that CIE is located in. It was most refreshing. Thank you, Shobha. When I joined CIE in 1974, I'm sorry, 1994, I'm really a Johnny come lately. I found it to be a community basking in its past glory, in what I thought at that time to be some kind of self-indulgent nostalgia. There were parallel narratives going around at that time in CIE, some of which contradicted each other. This reflected the micropolitics with the about Professor Nargis Panchapakishan alluded to in the context of resistance to new courses and programs. We may frown at this nostalgia, but it harness value in institutional sustenance. For sure, narratives that these exercises in nostalgia were ones that created a sense of solidarity among the CIE community. The history of human beings is that of beliefs and stories about common ancestors and totems, as Yuval Noah Harari says. In that sense, this nostalgia was a cementing force which kept CIE as an institution going. But nostalgia has limited shelf life. Don't remain fresh for long. Even nostalgia does not remain what it used to be. We will then have to have a nostalgia or nostalgia. It has already been said this morning about CIE's genesis. So I'm skipping those portions we had actually prepared. Basically, it's a Sargent Commission which actually thought about a post-war scenario for education. CIE became part of the planning for that. It's interesting to say that, the way CIE was conceptualized was with we had college in Calcutta were actually structured at that point in time. The CIE, first of all, was meant to be focusing on centrally administered territory of the government of India, excluding the presidencies, of course, and the principalities. What has also been mentioned this morning by Professor Krish Kumar was about the Maulana Azad's vision, and later, of course, also by Professor Nargis Panchapakishan, about the emphasis that he set on the pace-setting, that it to be a pace-setting institution of research and training for teachers, particularly at the primary education. But it is important to re-emphasize the fact that its original conception was as a premier institution for research and higher learning. It's also been said about Anandnath Basu, who brought in the tradition of Shantiniketan. Some of that tradition got translated into CIE's institutional traditions. I'm sure that, although in the morning's presentation, some of those traditions were not mentioned, but it's important. This morning assembly, this system of panchayat, the system of an initial induction camp, the langars, and of course, Professor Panchapakishan mentioned about the study tours and the planning that went behind it and so on. So there was many, many milestones in the calendar of CIE that actually that punctuated the calendar of CIE, that actually reflected the traditions which Professor Basu brought in. Professor Basu was also the member secretary of the Mudaliar Commission of the 1952-53. And Mudaliar Commission's conception of secondary education was a very comprehensive one. And CIE then became a nucleus in that sense for a new vision for school education, teacher education, particularly at the secondary level. It's interesting, many people don't know about it, but it's interesting that in 1959, the Ministry of Education in its annual report had mentioned that a 4-year teacher education program was being planned to be offered through CIE. You must remember that this was before the inception of the NCERT. But in 1961-62, NCERT was formed, amalgamating CIE along with other institutions related to various systemic aspects of school education that existed at that time, namely the Directorate of Extension Program for Secondary Education, Directorate of Audiovisual Education, Bureau of Textbooks, Center for Guidance and Counseling, Directorate for Center or Directorate for Guidance and Counseling. I don't know whether it was a center or a directorate, but that unit. All these were amalgamated together to form the National Council of Educational Research and Training. And CIE was to be the nucleus for higher learning and research within the National Council. In this capacity, CIE hosted curriculum experts from the USA and the USSR who were collaborating with Indian experts on curriculum and textbooks. The post-Sputnik era, which brought in the new kinds of textbooks in the United States, PSSC and CBC, what is called CBSG. I forget now the acronym, but the one in physical sciences and biological sciences and chemistry and so on, but also had an impact on the way in which science was being taught in India. And one of the major curricular and textbook reform planning was actually happened, and it was the major venue for that. The Delhi complex was a campus for the newly established National Council. So there was a conception that National Council will be in an ecosystem where there's an academic institution, a large academic institution, multiple specializations would be there. However, this part of the city at the point in time was already too saturated. You must remember that normally was the civilized at that point in time, apart from the Lutyens Delhi. It's also possible that the leadership of Delhi University at that point in time also may have shown reluctance to part with whatever limited tracts of land that can be allotted to it to let establish a new council at the national level. So eventually the land was allotted for NCRT on the fringes of the campus of the newly established IIT Delhi. At that point in time, I'm given to understand that many who are working in the constituent units of the council and worked from various places in North Delhi, like Model Town and so on, felt strongly about it and lamented that the organization, NCRT, was being banished out of the civilizational limits of the city of Delhi. It's an irony. So the National Institute of Education, NIE, got established in the new campus near IIT, and the RCEs, Regional Colleges of Education, which later transformed into Regional Institutes of Education in the 4 provincial towns, as was mentioned this morning, Bhubaneswar, Bhopal, Ajmer, and Mysore. CIE lost its prominence in this process as the jewel in the crown of the council, that is NCRT. It gradually assumed the status of a secondary teacher education institution, offering what continued to be considered as one of the best B.Ed programs in the country. The idea of CIE starting the 4-year program visualized as a part of the recommendations of the Mudaliar Commission for the multi-purpose schooling, and therefore there was a comprehensive teacher education program that was required, and therefore CIE was considered to be the right venue for starting the 4-year integrated teacher education program. And that is what I mentioned a little earlier about the 1959 annual report of the Ministry of Education. That was abandoned, that plan was abandoned, and instead 4 such programs were initiated in the newly established regional colleges of education. Because it's interesting that CIE's own Ahilya Chari became a pioneer for the 4-year program at the Regional College of Education, Mysore. I have heard 2 versions about the more than a decade-long struggle of CIE getting disengaged from NCRT. The struggle to disengage from NCRT somehow reminds and one version is that a majority of faculty at CIE were not very enthusiastic about continuing to be part of NCRT. This is one version I've heard. So the majority was pro-Brexiteers. Instead, they aspired to be a full-fledged component of the University of Delhi. CIE had a dream at that point in time about being modeled after the Institute of Education, University of London. I mean, And in fact, several of CIE's own faculty was sent to the Institute of Education, University of London for higher studies. Probably that would have been one of the possible destinies that was there for CIE. Professor P.K. Roy, who was the former principal of CIE at that point in time, was, of course, in a minority, probably of one. He probably felt that CIE's rightful place was among the constellation of new institutions at the national level that would spearhead the development of school education in India. So he was a strong advocate of CIE becoming part of this new ecosystem of the National Council of Education, Research and Training. So he himself, in fact, eventually migrated to the NCERT. The second version I've heard is that the government was too eager to keep its new institution at arm's length from the university system and aspired to grow as a national system of institution along the lines of the Soviet academies of sciences. Why so? Perhaps, as governments always did and do even today, thought universities were too messy. Perhaps the bureaucrats felt that they will have a better chance of controlling the institution if it was outside the university's domain. These are all hypotheses which need to be probably explored. CIE's transition, in any case, happened in 3 stages. 1947 to 1961 was the first phase, where it was a university recognized institution for postgraduate studies and research, and it was maintained directly by a fairly generous grant from the central government. From 1961 to 1974, it became a university recognized institution for postgraduate studies and research, which was part of the newly constituted National Council. There is NCERT with effect from 1961. Funding for CIE funds for CIE started being diverted through NCERT. The government funding that CIE received now became part of the NCERT's budget. 1974 to 1979 is the third phase, where CIE became a university maintained college, supported entirely by a reluctant University of Delhi. The funding responsibility was transferred entirely from the NCERT to DU. Then Delhi University itself was starved for funds in the 1970s, having lost its own status as a blue-eyed boy of the government and the UGC, and as a premier institution of higher learning, with the coming of the new boy, the Jawaharlal Nehru University. So it's still struggling for funding during the 1970s. It was reluctant taking up this new responsibility of an abandoned child, so to say, from the governmental system, that is CIE. From 1979, the department of it became a department of the University of Delhi, and long phase of transition probably may have proved to be one of stagnation for CIE. This is the impression that I get. From the late 1960s, 1974, and the 1974 to 1979 period had been a period of almost no development in CIE. The institute clearly fell between the 3 stools, namely the university, NCERT, and the government. From the late 60s onwards, it had been clear that his heart was not in NCERT and that it eventually seceded. Therefore, whatever resources that NCERT had were directed to its other constituents and not to CIE. At the same time, the Centers of Advanced Studies grants that came from the UGC in the late 60s, and under which several departments of the Delhi University, like botany department, physics department, sociology, economics, were vested with additional resources, did not come to CIE because it is not yet a full-fledged department of the Delhi University. So the Center of Advanced Study in Education actually went to Baroda instead. In the period 1974 to 1979, DU similarly had the same attitude to CIE, which I talked about a little earlier. DU was not sure whether CIE would remain with them or would be taken over by the grants under the 5-year plan that the DU received from the UGC at that point in time did not therefore adequately address the needs for CIE's growth and development. New positions were filled new positions were created in almost every department of Delhi University, but not in CIE, because it was DU did not consider CIE as a full-fledged part of its organizational structure. How far did Delhi University value its new additions in 1979? There were two additions. CIE was one, and the Delhi School of Social Work was another. This is a matter that needs some careful study. My sense is that CIE went into a position of relative marginality within the DU system, at least in the early years of its status as a university department. Professor Panchab Keshan spoke about this from her own personal experience, first as a student at the Department of Physics and later at as the head and dean of CIE. John Furlong, in his analysis of the disciplines of education and the struggle that education went through in the United Kingdom to attain the status of a university discipline, and this analysis, in my opinion, would apply to a large extent to CIE as well, in its struggle to become, considered at par with other departments of the University of Delhi. The post 1979 CIE fell in line with many other university departments of education, with focus on secondary teacher education and in fact, it became like many other institutions. So the uniqueness that CIE had, which Professor Krishna Kumar talked about this morning, somehow got lost in the process. As an aside, I must share with you a side story. The Hoshangabad science teaching program had attracted several faculty members and research scholars, largely from the faculty lines of the University of Delhi. This became a very important link between higher education and school education, particularly the upper primary and later primary education. Unfortunately, CIE had no involvement in this. Whatever institutional developments CIE had in the 1980s came not from UGC, but through its proximity with the Department of School Education in the Ministry of Human Resource, the newly formed Ministry of Human Resource Development in the University Government of Delhi. This resulted in a newfound focus on teacher education for secondary education and on elementary education. There was some focus on in-service secondary education earlier with under the Directorate of Secondary Education, and there was an extension unit was added to CIE at some point, but my sense is that that has not been all that effective. This is something, again, is historian of the institution may want to study a little further. But the real emphasis on the in-service education for secondary education actually came with the Institute of Advanced Studies in Education Institute of Advanced Studies in IASC within the CIE. This was as a consequence of the National Policy of Education 1986 and the teacher education scheme, under which we got 2 institutes of advanced studies in education units. One was on focusing on in-service programs for secondary education, and the other on elementary and social education, which was the Maulana Azad Center for Elementary and Social Education. The 1990s and the early 2000s saw CIE spreading over a large cluster of constituencies of the University of Delhi. It had only this association with college through one of its departments. But in the 1990s, we found it expanding to others, the creation of the Maharshi Valmiki College of Education, and also the launch of Bachelor of Elementary Education in several of the university's colleges. The 1990s also saw CIE enter into social development in the form of field laboratories in various parts of the country through UGC fellowships. And here, Professor Anil Sadgopal's contribution needs to be mentioned clearly. As his association with CIE has also seen this rather extension traditional teacher education perspective that CIE had to the other dimensions of education, including adult education, social education, and so on and so forth. The establishment of a statutory NCT in 1993 and its regulatory stipulations have had some impact on CIE, particularly its faculty profile. Professor Krishna Kumar did mention about its limited vision of teacher education. I would certainly consider that it is, of all stipulations of NCT, the most detrimental to CIE's development has been its limited focus on the qualifications of teachers, faculty members for a teacher education institution. My sense is that the presence of NCT in the ecosystem has affected CIE's own self-concept somewhat. I get the feeling that we take ourselves post-NCT more as a teacher education institution only, and less as an institution for learning and research in education as it was visualized. And that is actually getting reflected in the faculty profile of CIE as well. The 2002 hiring of faculty actually tried to create a wide base of faculty competencies, which extended beyond the scope of teacher education. But somehow I think that is that tendency, trend is now being seen to worst. Having said that, CIE has since shed parts of its institutional load for B.Ed to a few selected constituent colleges of DU, and its institutional energy is now being increasingly focused on the M.Ed and PhD programs, which is a very good thing. It's an opportunity for CIE to redeem its original vision. The NEP 2020 and its implications on teacher education is still to be completely comprehended. It is also an opportunity for CIE to introspect on. I would rather that CIE think about actively as to how it redefine itself, rather than wait for some fiats to come from above, from the ministry or from NCTE or whatever that is successor institution of NCTE. The CIE's history has had a few crossroads, and there are some critical questions that one keeps asking these with some what-if questions. Had CIE remained a standalone academic institution recognized as a postgraduate research institution by the Delhi University, as it was in the 1947-61, and if it had been developed as an independent institution, perhaps even a standalone university, model after the Institute of London, University of London, what would have been CIE's destiny? This is a question which I would certainly like us to address some not today, but this is a question that I think which we need to really ask ourselves. Had NCRT been established in Deep Complex instead of it being in South Delhi, and if CIE remained as the academic nucleus of NCRT as envisaged in 1960, what would have been the character of NCRT? My sense, I have ever certain sense of how NCRT could have probably been a little better in its performance as a lead thought leader for education, had it been in an academic ecosystem and not a bureaucratic organization, as it turned out to be. And if CIE had continued to be a university-made institution, like the University College of Medical Sciences, or to some extent like the Lady Irwin College, which is technically a trust-supported college, but practically a standalone postgraduate institution, while holding the status of, as it always did, as DU's Faculty of Education, as was the case in 1979. And in fact, CIE was the Faculty of Education even from 1947 onwards. And not become full-fledged Department of Education of DU, what would have been the character of CIE? I had some of these questions to a few critical actors. I had conversations with Ms. Ahilya Chari, with Ms. Shardamani Devi, and also with Professor R.N. Narotra a few years later. I actually got different views on this matter. We could talk about those reactions at some length in our informal conversations. These what if questions have no significance in a historian's work. Yet, for an institution needs introspection, these are interesting trigger points for deep reflections. CI will be celebrating the completion of 75 years in 2023. That will surely be an occasion for some serious attention and reflection for the CI community. Some of these questions which I highlighted could probably find its place among the various issues that the community may want to introspect on in 2023. Thank you very much once more for asking me to be part of this panel.
Thank you very much, sir, for this comprehensive recount. We could almost walk through those turning stages of CIE. And indeed, your questions at the end are very important and call for a reflective introspection. It does. Now I would like to invite Professor Shobha Sinha for her thoughts.
Thank you, Mahima. Can you hear me in this?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate and thank Professor Krishna Kumar, Professor Panchapakesan, and Professor Shyam Menon for agreeing to be a part of this morning's, taking us through the CIE journey. Actually, initially we had thought that we like to have it more in form of dialogues, but there are limitations to this medium and how we can use it. But from the questions, for example, that Professor Shyam Menon raised, it would have been nice to have a detailed discussion, which we will. I mean, this is just a start of that and not the end, institutionally to look into it. Some of the things that I thought while listening to all the speakers was that, CIE has gone through many changes, metamorphized, and it's very important that it did that. To remain relevant, one cannot be stuck at one place. An institution needs to reinvent itself, which CIE did. However, even in reinventing, one remains the original character somehow, and some of it, for example, the concerns for concern for students or student-centeredness, I have already shared, which should remain and which we should remember. This exercise is, I mean, it makes many of us become aware of our glorious past and sometimes very problematic past too, when we were treated as not a department of no consequence by Delhi University. Things change from time to time because when we were having meetings about how to deal with coronavirus, the VC turned to me and said, your department has to show the way. So there are realizations about this department, mostly because of the extreme hard work put in by the department and by the heads and dean. So just a second. One of the things that I felt while listening to all this, that, this whole idea of plurality, that there are so many different viewpoints which exists over there. We are a noisy lot in CIE. There's a lot of argumentation about everything. And I think that is the strength. Many of us have been extremely critical. We are proud of our past, but we have been very critical, students as well as faculty. And I think it is one of the strength. A strong department can be critical of itself, not a weak one. So I think there's no harm in it. We should continue. But we also have changed things, and we have to be willing to review that again and again and ask questions about ourselves, look at us, participate, and also analyze ourselves, kind of like participant observation kind of mode, which includes the present year. So that is very important. I have always felt that CIE, because of its, size, it's a huge department, it gave us a space to do what we wanted to do, and two very different kind of, perspectives and approaches to coexist. Given the nature of our country, I think it's a major strength of the department that it accommodates so many plurality of views. It's willing to change. We have heard the story about that, from how various programs came out of our department, as Professor Panchpakesan said, and the how outside changes and policies impacted our program, as Professor Shyam Menon said. So we need to think about it all. I won't continue speaking because there is no room for discussion in this format, but I just want to thank you all. And what I want to say is that what we have heard today is a start of this discussion. Of course, it has been happening over time period. It is not the first time. However, my concern is that we should start collecting information about CIE in a more systematic manner and storing it, kind of building up archives about it. And even this whole morning session has been recorded, and even collecting photographs of old times. Nowadays, even if we have a nice plate of samosa, we take a picture of that. But there were times when pictures were not taken so much. But I think we can get it through the help of faculty and alumni of the past. So a lot of work needs to be done, and we have been we have captured some of the spirit of the institution, which we can be proud of. There are others which we need to look into and critically analyze, and constantly keep on reinventing ourselves while keeping the spirit of CIE alive. With these words, I'll thank all of you for coming in this very cold morning and being a part of this Foundation Day celebration. It's not perfect, but at least we have marked the day. And I think I found it very interesting to listen to what had happened in our institution, and very inspiring. So thank you all for coming and attending, and we'll try to continue to do our best given the times. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to thank, on behalf of CIE, each one of you attending this event, our colleagues, our esteemed guests, our retired teachers, our colleagues from different colleges, department, non-teaching staff, our students, and our flag bearers, our alumni. Wishing for good health and peace, and a hope to meet again in the normal as we knew it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank